Tēnā koutou, ka timata tātou I tēnei wānanga hei karakia. Ko te kawa o te ora, ko te kawa o te ora. Ko te kawa o te ora tēnei ka takina. Ko te kawa o te ora tēnei ka hikina. Ai, tapu, tapu, mai, koia ko rangi e tū nei. Tapu, tapu, mai, koia ko papa e takoto nei. Tapu, tapu, mai, koia ko tēnei mana mai, mana atu. Mauri mai, mauri atu. Tapu mai, tapu atu. Tiaki mai, tiaki atu. Haumi e, hui e, tāiki e. Tēnei te mihi nunui kia koutou katoa, kua tai mai ki te whakarongo mai I nei kōrero I tēnei wānanga, ko tēnei te wānanga tuarua o te kawa o te ora. Huri noa kia koutou, ngā māreikura, ngā kai kōrero, māhuru, mai Ngāti awa, Ngāti ranginui, Anne-Marie, mai te whenua o Ngāti mutunga me Ngāti tama, e Jude, mai ngā Rauru, Ngāruahine, Ngāti Ruanui, te Ātihaunui-a-pāpārangi, me te Whakatōhea, koutou ko koe, Janet, nau titihi o ngā kaitiaki, o te whenua o te wautu, kei te mihi, kei te mihi, kei te mihi. Welcome everyone, it's fantastic to have you all back. For those of you returning for the second of our 1 in 3 webinar series that's part of Te Kawa o Te Ora. I just want to start by acknowledging Matuarui-a-Perehama, who was the kaitito, the composer of the karakia that we started, for which the name of this webinar series is taken. Ko Naomi Simmons tēnei, he uri tēnei no raukawa ki te kaukaro e Pātetere, and it's my privilege to be able to tui some of the kōrero that will be shared across all 3 of the webinar, and in particular facilitate the conversation today. You would have seen in the call out for this particular webinar, the whakatauki he taonga tuku iho ko te manu tukutuku, kua ngaro atu ki ngā hau e whā, kua whakamīharo a tātou nei ngākau kia puta ake ki te whaiao ki te ao mārama. A treasured kite lost to the wind brings much joy when found again. And it's on this whakaaro, on these ideas around thinking about innovation and climate adaptation, but not innovation for innovation's sake, but innovation that is connected to our past, connected to the lessons and learnings and the genius of our ancestors, and moving forward to address some of the challenges that we face today. So nau mai, hara mai, I hope you all are cozy and warm, or somewhere nice and sunny, and have a good cup of tea, because we've got some beautiful kōrero to listen to, and some discussion in the second half of our webinar as well. So just mihi again to all of our beautiful kai kōrero, mai te tai hauauru, tēnei o ngā tiraukawa e mihi ana, just a bit of a plug for this, you know, the landlocked iwi that is in the middle of the North Island. It's fantastic to have you all with us, and we're really looking forward to your sharing. So on that note, I will, as Ruia says, I will stop taking up oxygen. The way that the webinar format will work today is that we will have a presentation from Mahuru and Anne-Marie first, and then we will hand over to Janet and Jude for a presentation on their rangahau, and then we will move into the discussion. So if you do have questions for the panel, please put them in the Q&A session. We will get to those in the second half of the webinar, and feel free to use the chat function as well, which we will be keeping an eye on. So without further ado, I will pass the rākau kōrero to korua ko Mahuru ko Anne-Marie. Nei rā te mihi nunui.
Tēnā tātou katoa, tuatahi ngā mihi ki a koe Naomi, korua ko Max. Thank you so much for having us here today and bringing us together to share some of the mahi we've been doing in the Deep South Challenge. And for Anne-Marie for coming along and sharing your whakaaro and beautiful experience as one of the, key knowledge holders and connectors within this project too. So I'm going to share a bit of a PowerPoint with you. I hope this is showing up. So the mahi that myself and Anne-Marie, as well as representatives from Ngāti Tama and Ngāti Maru, were part of is Te Tirohanga o Ngā Tohu, or Taranaki Climate Resilience. Let me see where the presentation thing has gone. Sorry, guys. God. Okay. Trying to figure out where this has gone. Is it changing slides for me or not? No. Oh, Kāhui, got it. So I'm going to ask Anne-Marie to kick us off with a bit of whakawhanaungatanga.
Ka pai tīnā koe mahuru. Nō reira tēnā nō rā koutou, tēnā rō ko tātou katoa. Ko Taranaki te maunga, ko parenenehi ngā matua kānohi o Ngāti Tama, ko mimitangi atua te tipuna awa e rere atu ki Wairoa, ko Ngāti Mutunga tēnā, ai ko Anne-Marie tōku ingoa. Kia ora tātou.
I'll introduce myself. Thank you, Naomi, for giving a little intro, but ko Ngāti awa, ko Ngāti ranginui ngā iwi, ko Mahuru Wilcox ahau, he kairanga hau ahau mō manaki whenua ki kiri roa. So I'm part of the research team from Manaki Whenua Landcare Research, along with Millie Grant Mackey, who is pictured here with our manu tukutuku. So our role within this mahi was to really support the development of a tool that met the needs of the three Northern Taranaki iwi, and really find ways to weave the threads of knowledge together. And a bit of context about the project. So climate change, as you know, we're facing this issue globally. In Northern Taranaki, it's pretty significant. You can see from the photo there. They're dealing with coastal erosion, inland erosion, loss of important habitats, and at risk of extreme weather events. However, they also have a beautiful, strong community engaged in local tāiao and marae, and this is really the foundation of where we went to with this tool development. So the aim was to, develop a climate change tool based on iwi priorities, values, aspirations, identified by Ngāti Mutunga, Ngāti Tama and Ngāti Maru. There are some key aspirations that were common across all three of the iwi. So to express and promote kaitiakitanga and uphold customary rights, obligations and responsibilities within the rohe. To reconnect, protect and enhance the environment for future generations. To protect, maintain and enhance the mauri and wairua of their local tāiao and strengthen that relation of people to place. And then lastly, ensure the management of the tāiao achieves meaningful cultural and environmental outcomes. So this is where things got really interesting and took a different path from what myself as an outside researcher kind of thought the tool might look like, and really bringing in that traditional knowledge. So they identified a climate change tool and some of their needs, what this might actually look like. So practical tool. A lot of tools available now just sort of list indicators, and people are sort of expected to go out and write a number or a Likert scale or give some sort of interpretation of the health of a particular tohu. And some of those tools are quite similar to science approaches for monitoring and don't necessarily bring in local cultural knowledge and traditional cultural practices. So reconnecting with resources that local iwi had less interaction with, so bringing some of those taonga, those species to the forefront that may have been somewhat forgotten in our, modern lives, and including environmental, social and cultural tohu. So again, this more holistic approach to monitoring, so not just monitoring for monitoring's sake. And there's this beautiful whakaaro that Anne-Marie shared, which I really think captures this whole project. So in a nutshell, so it really takes our whole culture to understand our whole taiao. So the siloing of knowledge isn't necessarily helpful when you're thinking about global and local issues like climate change. Bringing in different knowledge systems and that level of connection is so important as we tackle these, big issues. And this was a bit of an aha moment. So as I was listening to people's whakaaro and some of the key indicators that they noticed within the Taranaki rohe, we were trying to think of a way to bring all these complex tohu together. And this is where toi Māori, or specifically manu tukutuku, enters the chat. And yeah, as Anne-Marie will explain later, it's really shifted the thinking around what tools can look like, or monitoring tools can look like, and manu tukutuku is a symbol of joy and uplifting in what can sometimes be quite a heavy kaupapa. And then all of these things, these aspirations, these tohu, really link to some key values for Northern Taranaki iwi. So well-being is connected to whānau, hapu and iwi, so that those relationships are critical. Connection to ngā atua and tupuna, so linking that past, present and future thinking, and tangata whenua connected to taiao. So instead of just listing tohu, how do we get our people actually out into taiao? So all of that was brought together and summarized in this manu tukutuku tool or infographic. I won't dwell too long on this because the really cool part of the presentation is actually Anne-Marie talking about the wānanga and the manu tukutuku tool itself. So we have this image, but the embodying of that and what that looks like on the ground is really exciting stuff. So I'm going to pass on to Anne-Marie.
Apai, kia ora mahuru. Thanks everybody. So how did we land at manu tukutuku? So we for a little while now we've sort of noticed the absence of toi in the taiao space, and just within our little rohe anyway, in our little whānau area. I would hate to talk for everybody, but it's kind of the different types of toi, mahinga toi that we can do. Sort of the different toi will connect you with different sections of the environment, and we have a really solid foundation of kairaranga here in Ngāti Mutunga. So our harakeke stocks and things like that are quite immaculate. But to try and get into different parts of the taiao, and something fun and interesting for our whānau as well, to get involved with, we can get our tamariki involved, and that's really important for us at Mutunga as well. In the past, our environmental monitoring type kaupapa do involve heavy whānau engagement, because it's something that is quite important for us here. So yeah, manu tukutuku, we thought, something that's really, it could be nice and simple, so our tamariki can get involved, or it could also be a little bit more challenging. If you wanted to push yourself a bit further, you could, do that as well if you were a little bit more artistically minded. Yeah. And it also took us into new environments in our taiao space, like I said earlier. So at the moment, we've been spending a lot of time, like everyone's spending a lot of time in freshwater spaces and marine spaces. We wanted to try and branch out a little bit and get into our repurposed and a few of our more inland, more secluded spots. Ka pai. So firstly, we reached out to our whānau. When we decided what we were going to do, we landed on manu tukutuku. We needed to work out what we needed to use to start with. So, like we know, it was my first time. I'd never done any mahi on manu tukutuku. So, for a lot of us, it was our first time using these particular taonga species. So, firstly, we had to identify what it was that we needed. Kākaho, raupo, karakeke, and some of the uku for decorations as well. So that was the first discussion, and it was really cool to just begin the first conversation and get people starting to think about the different places where they might find these certain things, and also helped identify historical traditional sources. Kōrero tuku and local knowledge helped us to understand historic abundance and the extent of the loss of our taonga resources as well. So identifying sources for gathering. So we had started more whānau conversations, trying to get our whānau involved as much as we can. We're lucky here in Ngāti Mutunga that we still have quite a few of our whānau living locally and living off the land. So we talked about where they might have been found these certain resources in the past, and are they still there? Are they as abundant? One thing that we did find was that the kākaho, which is the toi flower stems, we didn't really, we found them in odd spot patches every now and then, but when we went to harvest, we needed to go to somewhere we had just been recently replanted. So one of the local kite had regenerated one of the gully blocks, and they had planted a whole lot of toi, and that's where we gathered our kākaho. But it was really interesting to find that there was no, to be able to harvest as many as we needed, we couldn't really find any natural stands. And also some of the resources a lot of our whānau had never worked with before or even considered, so they may not have really taken much notice about where those certain taonga might have lived or even have visited those places before. So that was great to create those relationships with these new places on our whenua. Not just the old going to the beach, to the reef where the kaimoana is, or, you know, to the awa where the tuna are. Bye-bye. Collecting the resources. So this was my favourite part. I love getting out into the Taiao, getting amongst it. I think those of you who know me will definitely know that about me. So it was great to be able to involve the whole whānau in the harvesting of these resources as well. So, all our tamariki and our kaumātua, it wasn't really difficult, wasn't a big trek, and they could all be involved in some way. So that's really important for us. And then to help them all to physically connect with the whenua as well. So, like mahi, it wasn't really strenuous. It was creating opportunities for our whānau to reconnect to the whenua, which is really what we're trying to achieve. And to collect our own set resources from our own whenua, to tell our own stories, or even to create new stories, gives us a real sense of belonging and helps to strengthen our people. The more whānau we can get spending time with the Taiao, the more in tune we can be with our whenua as a collective. And we can be better positioned to notice changes in the environment if we're spending a lot of time out there with our whānau. And if our tamariki are being engaged and involved, then they will continue to, they will feel safe and happy at the places that we're going to, and they'll continue to go there off into the future. Okay, back at the pā. So when we got all our resources collected, we spent a bit of time driving around the rohe to the various different places, find raupo and our kākaho and our harakeke and our uku. We all met back at the pā. Hoki atu. So through preparing preparing the resources, we got a better understanding about it as well. And the longer you spend with our taonga species, and then the stronger the connection, the better that you can understand it, and the more appreciation that grows with that as well. And then the whole time working mahitahi with whānau, more kōrero are always coming out, and we're always learning from each other, and even coming up with new and innovative ideas for the way that we attack our environmental issues. Okay. Back at the pā, we were making picnics from paints and local uku. So we were going down to the beach and gathering these uku, and that was really interesting for me. So it was something that I'd never really done. I spent a lot of time at the moana. I love the moana. We do a lot of mahinga kai and surfing and swimming and whatever else goes with it. But I've never really paid a lot of attention to the use of the uku and the local whenua and uku for dyes. So we collected that from the Taiao, and spending time, that was another great aspect to the projects. It got us down to even to the tide, like, you know, even to the beach, to take notice of the way things might be eroding. Keeps us aware of how fast that might be happening. We've got a lot of pā sites on the seafront as well. So, you know, if we can spend a lot of time, any time that we can spend down at the beach, just keeping an eye on these things. You know, we've got old urupā that might be getting closer and closer to the sea edge as climate changes and sea levels rise. We want to be keeping an eye on these things and be ready to act when we need to. When we began to create our manu tukutuku, this is when my challenges come in. I'm not a real artistic person, but it was really enjoyable still. We learned how our taonga resources can work together to create something that can be useful or tell a story. It's a good time to kōrero wānanga again, all the time, kōrero and wānanga with our whānau, which is so important. Kōrero tuku iho, making sure that we really know what's happening on our whenua and within our whānau, so we can look after each other and we can look after our Taiao better. Time to reflect and add intention into creations. So we all know when we're creating something, you put your good intentions in, and yeah, that just adds to the mauri of your mahi. And creating appreciation of the different properties. So, you know, the more we work with our taonga species and with our resources, the more, like I said earlier, the more we can understand them. So we were realizing that, you know, we had to be really gentle with the raupo, because it would break or it might crush. You could be quite rough with the harakeke because it's strong. And yeah. So once we had finished creating our manu tukutuku and painting them up, so we painted them up with the uku, and that was amazing. The children loved it. We learned how to bind the uku with pia, which was like a gum sap, or I can't remember what the other replacement was. It, and it's linseed oil. Yeah, and then that just helps the uku, the dyes to bind so that they will stick to your manu tukutuku. And yeah, the tamariki drew all cool little designs on. Some people were a bit more creative than others, but it was all really, really fun. And yeah, and we learned a lot about how uku and pia and everything combines, and it was cool. When we went to fly our manu tukutuku, some of the whānau had spent a lot of time and effort and passion and building and creating these manu tukutuku. So a few of them were a little bit hesitant to actually fly them. But like our facilitator said, that, you know, that the beauty of this is that you know, because it didn't take us long. This is one day we were doing this mostly, and we can just repair them. You know, if they break, that's just part of the journey, and you pick them up, do a repair job, and then carry on again. So yeah, tukunuki we flew them all off. I don't think it was quite windy enough for us to get too much traction, but the tamariki had the best time. I had the best time. It was a quite joyous occasion when we all had our kites built and we could sit there and celebrate our achievements and learn to let them go. It was quite a freeing and uplifting, as Mahuru said. It was a lot of fun. So these are all our whānau and their completed manu tukutuku. As you can see, there's some pretty cool designs in there. That's our whare tūwhera mahi tamariki. What a beautiful photo. I really, really enjoyed this wānanga, and just something different for us. Like I said, I'm more into mahinga kai and out there in the environment, getting my hands dirty. But this was really, really inspiring and really cool to see how easily we could involve everybody. Everybody could be involved in this kaupapa, and it was just amazing. And there was something in there that everybody enjoyed, you know, like if you went into wading around in the repo, harvesting your ropo, then you know your mate would do it, and then we get back to the pā, and you're probably more suited to tying up your frames and or doing the arty designs. But it was just great. I really, really enjoyed it. So I just read a little conclusion just before the webinar started, so I'll just read it out quickly. In our changing environment and challenging political climate, it is important to find new, innovative, fun, effective and safe ways to help us in our whānau to maintain connections to their whenua and whakapapa. The stronger our connection to and understanding Taiao and understanding of the Taiao, the better equipped we can be to remain resilient in the face of climate change or any of the challenges that we are currently facing or may face in the future. So thanks very much, everybody, for listening. I don't know if I'm used up all my time or not, but nei rā te mihi nui ki a koutou katoa. Just kōrero mai me ngā pirangi āwhina i tēnei wā. In that space, it was just really inspirational for me, and I really enjoyed it. So thanks, Mahuru, for getting it off the ground for us, and to DSC for the funding as well. So thank you, everybody.
Tēnā koe, Emery, tēnā kōrua me o koutou whānau. It's so beautiful to see the work that you've done, and the way that the project pulled the tool off the page and into the Taiao, and served, I think, both as a kind of space of refusal to conform to the norms around what tools and what these kinds of tools we think they should look like. But also I want to acknowledge the space of joy and possibility that it created for the whānau and the connection to the Taiao, that the process that you allowed, that you supported, that you invited in, that your intellectual practices were folded in and through that relationship to the Taiao and to each other and expressed through those beautiful manu tukutuku. I understand their reluctance to put them in the air, but really, really, really beautiful to hear, and thank you very much for sharing with us. We will come back to you for some pātai towards the end of the panel, but we're going to move now to Janet and Jude. Kia kōrua te wā.
Ko Janet Stevenson ahau, kia ora koutou, no Waikato no Otago Whakaihu Waka, University of Otago in Āne. This is kind of continuing the Taranaki theme. So I'm co-presenting today with Jude. Jude, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself too?
Kia ora tātou, i te whānau katoa, ko taku pepe i taku marae tūturu o ngā Rauru i te taha o tōku pāpa, ko papa nei te maunga, ko kaiwi te awa, ko ngā Rauru, ki ta i te iwi, ko Ngāti Pūkiko me Ngāti Iti me Tamarihi roto ngā hapu, ko kaiwi te marae, ko Jude Cornelius ahau. Anō ngā mihi nui kia tātou.
Kia ora. And thank you, Naomi and Max, for facilitating this kōrero this morning. I'm going to try and share my talk. I hope I get this right. What are you seeing? Are you seeing the slideshow or not? Or
We are now. Yeah, we are now, Janet. Yeah.
Great. Excellent. So the Innovations for Climate Adaptation project is one I've been co-leading with Merata Kāwharu and two others from Manaki Whenua and University of Otago, Sophie Bond and Graydon Diprose. And what we have been interested in this research project is how our many communities around the motu are undertaking these wonderful innovations, doing new stuff in the face of climate change. And the research has been working with iwi organisations in South Taranaki, in Bay of Plenty, and in the Otago region, as you see on the map here. And with those, we've been working closely with these communities, going back, dropping in on them every 6 months or so to see what new stuff they're doing, exciting stuff, and recording their stories and what they're doing, and also how they're working with their local councils. So we've also been interviewing the councils at the same time, but that's not part of our kōrero today. But as Mahuru already said, Māori communities are already being impacted by climate change in many ways: floods, droughts, groundwater degrading mahinga kai, new species coming into the moana, stressed awa, coastal erosion, and so forth. And these are bringing all sorts of new challenges through extreme events, homes and gardens running out of water, affecting local foods, eroding wahi tapu and sites, marae and kāinga under threat, and in some instances, communities are having to consider relocation as well. But in all of that, what we are seeing across all of these communities we're working with is everybody is doing new stuff. Everybody is responding from their tikanga, from their histories, and taking their unique voices and perspectives into developing their own unique approaches to responding here. And importantly, they're learning from each other. They're being inspired by each other. So we've brought these some of the communities we've been working with together, mostly online, but sometimes in person, to share what they're doing as well. And out of this work, we're developing sort of a final product. Whoops, this is automatically going on, which is not a good idea. So I've adapted this from another talk where the slides automatically advanced, and unfortunately I've not properly reset it. So they're learning from each other, being inspired by each other, and kind of from that idea of the communities we've been working with being inspired by each other's stories, as a final product from this, we're developing something together that we're calling kite whakaro, which is ideally to share those stories and possibly help other iwi and hapu who are starting their own climate adaptation journeys. So that's it's in the kind of the graphic design process at the moment, but I'm going to give you just a few insights into some of the messages that the kite whakaro will have. So we've kind of, what we've done here is it partly tells the individual stories of each of the communities we've been working with, but it also brings together at a high level some of the cool stuff people have been doing. So what we're seeing very much is this rangatiratanga in the face of climate change. Communities leading their own climate change adaptation at whatever scale, at a marae scale, at a kāinga scale, at a hapu scale, at an iwi scale. Developing their own climate adaptation plans and strategies, like this beautiful one from Rauru Kitahi. Really shaping and influencing the council and government policies and actions through their own relationships that they've been forging, and supporting new and emerging leaders, particularly rangatahi, lots of work with young people. In terms of mātauranga, drawing on their own knowledge of past and present climate change. Communities going out and monitoring their own environmental health using both tikanga and Western science methods. Commissioning scientific reports on the local impacts of climate change, like from niwa, and holding wānanga to upskill on climate change and to share knowledge, like in this beautiful picture here at Makatu. In terms of kaitiakitanga, working to rebuild the Māori of Te Tāou, bringing about marae-based planning for climate change adaptation, undertaking hikoi, as Jude might be talking about, sharing some of their hikoi stories to reconnect, share stories and observe the changes along the coast. And again, supporting rangatahi to become the next generation of kaitiaki. And in terms of manaakitanga, ensuring marae are ready for taking care of people during extreme weather events, as they did during Cyclone Gabriel, becoming the centre of the community caring. improving water supplies for times of drought, and developing food security, developing marakai, restoring mahinga kai. And finally, kōtahitanga, bringing people together at marae, iwi and hapu levels, and also working across hapu and iwi for shared climate change challenges, and often working with and leading climate actions with tangata tiriti within their own locations, and lots of really exciting collaborations with councils and government agencies. So that's a really high level idea of some of the really cool stuff that's happening right across all of these communities we've been working with. And one of those has been, of course, Ngā Rauru Kitahi. And I just pop up this beautiful quote here from one of the interviews. There's nobody else that knows this whenua better than the people that are here. Climate change is going to affect our families, and we know that our families will still be here in 1,000 years' time. It's just beautiful. And on that basis, I'm going to just flick over now to Jude, who's going to tell us some stories from the exciting stuff they've been doing in Ngā Rauru Kitahi.
Ngā mihi anō, Janet. The exciting stuff that's been happening back home is we're going home. And with that, we're bringing our people. Our climate strategy that we've put together with MFE a couple of years ago, I think 3 now, we were lucky enough to get some funding to be able to wānanga and plan and sit down and suss it out. So we've got the bones of that together now. A big part of developing that strategy was getting the kōrero from our people so that they could see themselves in it and live and breathe it as well. It also gave us an idea of, you know, what's the knowledge of climate change out on the land. Our kids know it all. Well, they know everything. So we needed to have our rangatahi as part of that space as well, which we're working really hard to develop at the moment. But we needed to have in that climate change strategy our whakapapa, our kōrero, in a way that it was going to engage our people, so that our people, it was digestible for our people, it was simple to understand, to follow, and our people could see themselves in there. If they couldn't see themselves in there, it's just a book that lives on the shelf. And so we needed to live and breathe it. That climate change strategy guides our whole work stream pretty much in our iwi, for our Pūtaiao team in particular, and we're working on our adaptation plans now, and specific plans for our marae. In Ngā Rauru, we've got marae on the coast, we've got marae inland with our awa, we've had flooding, we have been cut off from the world. Our mother vein, our waitotara, our awa, can split us in two sometimes when there is the last flood we had was 2015, and we couldn't get through for a few weeks. Our people who were up the valley in Waitotara, we couldn't get to them at all for a while. So we felt back then that we needed to start doing something about it, and our kids were kicking up a bit of a stink. So they wanted to be a part of that journey. It's slow, as with, you know, a lot of mahi that happens with our people, he tino iti, and he tino pōturu, but pai te haringa mō ngā mahi, ki te whenua, mō ngā awa, ki te takutai, yeah, it was to come home. So we did that by providing some opportunities in wānanga, on our takutai, on our awa, putting our kayaks on our awa, so our people could smell, see, feel, look. Definitely not going to taste our awa at this point, but in a few years' time, when our kids have got that restoration sorted out, we might be able to do that. To have our aunties and uncles in the vans with us or in the cars with us, for those who couldn't be on the awa, share their kōrero. For our mātanga in those spaces who love being on the awa, to share their kōrero. To kōrero about the mahinga kai that used to be in there, or in our moana, what the whenua looks like, and touch and feel and see. When we're on our whenua, when we're in our awa, we know we need to go from there. So that was a big part of the journey. As our kōrero, our quote that Janet shared before, that there's no one else who knows our whenua. You know, we're no different from any other iwi that knows our whenua better is our people. And in particular, our people that are home. Our people that are home on the whenua, they can kōrero about what's happening on the daily, what's happening on the monthly. You know, they had the maramataka ingrained in their head. And some of us who are in the city or we're away overseas, we want to contribute and help in some way. And wānanga, there was opportunity for those who were away from home and wanted to contribute in that Taiao space to come home and be able to do that, so that we could pretty much infiltrate climate change into our people, so that it's a moving machine that keeps going and going, so that we can leave way better than what we have now for our tamariki and our moko that are coming through. So manakiang in that wānanga space, to be able to kōrero with each other, to have a kōrero about our climate change strategy, change it if we needed to, add it if we needed to, map our sites of significance was important to us. To be able to also sit down with our individual marae on what does it look like for kaiwi, what does it look like for taipaki, what does it look like for whaiao ture marae, and be able to kōrero in that space as well as in iwi as a whole. So that's kind of where we're at, and then from there our Taiao, our people, said to our Taiao team, we need to start fixing some of our mea. So that's what our restoration team, our planting team, our monitoring team, our pest control team, with that growing our uri in those spaces who want to volunteer or come on board and mahi alongside, so that we're growing in that space as well. The more of us that can see, feel, hear in that space, the better it is. So that's where we're at. We've still got a lot to go. The adaptation plans are coming up, but yeah, that's what's happening on the whenua of Rauru at the moment.
Kia ora. Thank you, Jude. Just really inspirational stuff. Yeah, we'll leave it there, and yeah, happy to answer any questions in due course.
Hena kōrua, nei rā te mihi nunui kia kōrua, mō tēnei whakamāramatanga I pāna ki o kōrua rangahau, kia koe Jude me te whānau o ngā Rauru, kei te mihi, kei te mihi, kei te mihi. Thank you, Janet, Jude, Mahuru, Anne-Marie, really interesting kōrero, and I think demonstrate both the innovation but the connectedness of that innovation to people in place, and the real importance of our tangata whenua and our whenua in our climate adaptation conversation. So I just want to move now into some discussion. I've got about 15 minutes left, so I would invite those that are listening. We can't see you all, by the way, but those that are listening in, the way we can engage with you is through questions and through the chat function. So if you have some questions for the panel, either specifically for members of the panel or just generally, that would be great. So while you're putting those in, I wanted to actually start by asking the panel, and particularly kōrua Anne-Marie, ko Jude, but what, from your perspective, what do you need? What innovations do you need? What resources do you need? What kinds of things will support you in the climate adaptation journey with your whānau? So I'll go to Jude first and then Anne-Marie.
Tēnā tātou. Like what everyone needs, we need cash. It's not everything, but it's a big start to help bring our people home. It's hard to fill up your car. It's hard to get kai now unless we've got a mara kai, you know, we all bring together, which we always do. But to be able to come home to wānanga and make it easier for those who need to come home and want to come home, the pit of the money bags in the tari is not huge. We don't also want to use our settlement money to be bringing our people home. We want to have another stream. The other resources that we probably need is anything that we need to help do our restoration mahi. Monitoring, we're lucky we've got a really good relationship with Taranaki Regional Council, and they let us use their really cool $15,000 probe every month. And we've been out with them a lot now to be able to go out and use that every month without one of their team members, so that's pretty cool. Schmack kits are really awesome that we've got to help. Those are the best engaging tools to get our rangatahi and our whānau to come home to do a little something. You know, our mahinga kai observation and survey kits, to have one of those or those in every marae or ngāroru would be a buzz, so that marae can be sustainable on their own to do their own monitoring would be cool. Aroha mai, tuku te rākau ki a koe, Emery.
Ka pai tēnā koe, Jude. Yeah, so pretty much tautoko everything that Jude's just said. You know, we also have a good relationship with the regional council. Yeah, so we've been using their equipment for a few years now. We've had our freshwater monitoring program in place for a while. Now, we don't do our monitoring monthly. We do our baseline surveys, which we're wanting to do at least every five or so years. We would do 4 times a year, once a season, and then otherwise it's annual, and it's based around mahinga kai. For us, that scientific aspect is just a plus. All data is good data, so that's great. And anything that gets our whānau home and engaged in the environment is good for me. And like, you know, it doesn't have to be traditional mahinga kai. It'd be great if it is. That's what we're aiming for. But if it means that we're gonna, like, if our councils can resource us to do their mahi, that's great for us. Like if I can give our people opportunities to do the work on their own whenua, doing all of this mahi, you know, we can train them up. If we have the funding, we can train them up. It's not really difficult. I don't want taking away from them, but that you know, some of that monitoring, that field work is not real difficult. We have a lot of volunteers coming up to do our trapping and coming out with us, because, you know, like I said, I could do all of our surveying by myself or with just one other of our team, but that's not what it's about. It's about getting whānau back into the environment, and we can resource our whānau to be able to have the time, because, you know, our whānau are struggling. They're working 3 or 4 jobs. They don't have time to come out to Mutunga, Ruanui, back of nowhere, so that they can hang out in the river and count some tuna with me. You know, like it's not realistic for them. Yeah, so Pūtaiao, like even petrol vouchers for our volunteers. We've got a whanaunga member who comes and he does trapping for us out here, but, you know, it costs a lot of money for him to drive out. And Mutunga is very secluded. We don't have big highways going everywhere. We've got little winding roads that take hours to get anywhere we're going. So, yeah, things like that. And yeah, and enabling us to do the mahi on the whenua that, you know, is already been doing. Why can't we do it? Most of the time, these people are coming from Stratford or around the coast, you know, hours away outside our rohe, and we do have whānau. If we had whānau that had mahi here, they'd move home in a flash, you know. Things like that. Where else was I going? I did have something else to say, but I went down that rabbit hole. Sorry.
Oh, don't apologise, korua. I think, you know, these are really important, honest discussions for us to have. I think when we're thinking about moving climate adaptation forward, when we're thinking about even research projects, you know, a really honest appraisal of what will help. Because I think what you've all demonstrated today is that when you invest in community and you create the space for communities to come together, innovation and climate adaptation happens, the strategies happen, the connections happen. There is so much in that that happens and that you've demonstrated unfolds just by bringing people home, by having people on the whenua connected and having those engaging conversations with the whenua and with each other. So thank you for bringing that into the room. We have got another question that kind of is similar, but more specifically is around working collaboratively with territorial authorities and what some of the barriers and or enablers are there. So I might, for just this, because I know Janet you've also interviewed a number of councils, flick to you first, and then if any of the others no doubt would like to feed in, we can move across there.
Yeah, well, I'm just thinking across various kōrero that we've had with different communities, and often the first barrier is just the council recognising the mana of the hapu or the iwi of the area. And sometimes it's as simple, the first step is just, we are here, you need to see us and you need to engage with us. And particularly with one community, that was the real breakthrough, was actually just being recognised as existing in the first place. But I think also working collaboratively means that the council is really open to engaging, has people whose job it is to be there for the communities and to work directly with them. And also having, as Anne-Marie and Jude have said, often councils have pockets of money that they can just put towards something that is really, really crucial for a Māori community to be able to do. For example, one community that we worked with, they got $15,000, which enabled them to get niwa to do some projections about sea level rise for their kāinga. And that was just the eye-opener. That was what they needed to suddenly realise that they were at risk. So sometimes it can be something not huge, but something that is really, really important that community says they need, and to recognise that, yeah, we do need to act. So, yeah, there's a couple of ideas.
Kia ora, Janet. Jude, Anne-Marie?
Anne-Marie and I are lucky with, it's the power of the collective. There's 8 iwi in Taranaki. So the regional council have to deal with 8 iwi in Taranaki. And as an 8 iwi, we hold the line together. We also, the Pou Taiao of Taranaki, we work in the policy space with Taranaki Regional Council. So we have got huge influence and input there. That has been really awesome to be a part of, to be able to hold our line. I think it's just, Tina Piro always says, hold the line, stay firm together. And particularly with the Taranaki Regional Council, we do that. And with the Horizons Regional Council as an iwi collective, more down our Ātihaunui-a-pāpārangi, Ngāti, Ngā Wairakiki, Ngāti Apa, we're working harder in that space to come more as if a collective to be able to hold that line together. So that's something that we've done together as a individual iwi, in particular with water monitoring and with restoration in those spaces. They're monitoring all the time. So actually, you're in my house. You don't come into my house unless we know about it, please. And having those monthly or bi-monthly hui to be able to kōrero about those spaces. There's lots of changes happening out there with the farm plans, and for them to see the relationship that we have with not only our own on the land, but with our landowners and our farmers, it's a good working space to be in. So, yeah.
Kia ora, tēnā koe, Jude. Anne-Marie and Maharu, do you have additional comments on working collaboratively either with territorial authorities or others? I know yours is a collaboration also between a CRI and iwi and hapu. You may have some thoughts on that.
So I think Jude has pretty much covered it for us here in Taranaki. Yeah, we do our best, hold the line. That's a really cool kōrero, right? You do have to, but you have to be so diligent, because I don't know whether, you can't tell whether it's intentional or not, but you see little bits slipping through, and all of a sudden I'll see a bit of data come up on their website or somewhere saying that they've collected a whole lot of data from one of our tupuna awa, and I'll be like, well, I'm the office is right here. Why am I? It's just like, you just have to be diligent, keep an eye on it. But at the moment we are working quite well. I would like to, like I said before, I'd like to see them relinquish some of that mahi to us to undertake even on their behalf. One of the challenges that we face, saying earlier, working with farmers and stuff, but when we talk about getting whānau involved and whakahoki ki ngā, you know, kōrero tuku, or like, so mahi that we would have done in the past, mahinga kai, all of the types of mahinga kai, you know, not just the things we can still do, but birding and things like that. You know, we don't have access to our whenua anymore. So, and it's not safe for us to go to some of our mahinga kai spots because there's no access to them. They're all owned by private people. You know, we've just had a little bit of an uproar in our community in the last week around a misunderstanding of the maka claim. So they're thinking that iwi, we're going to own the beach and we're going to stop them from accessing the beach. And, you know, we pointed out to them, so Mitunga already own Ruanui Beach Camp. We already own all ngaro. You haven't been limited. Your access is not limited. However, our access is limited. So it's just, you know, that those are the sorts of things that irk me. I would like us to be able to have, you know, those are our ancestral fishing spots and our ancestral mahinga kai, and we aren't permitted to go there, and it's unsafe for us to do so in some cases. If we can create good relationships with landowners, that's great, but that's not always the case.
Kia ora. Tēnā koe, Anne-Marie. Mahuru, do you have anything to add? We have got one more question to wrap up as well.
I think everyone's covered that relationship thing is so key, and that acknowledgement of iwi and hapu as tiriti partners is so important. That's really the foundation. And also for those, you know, in those territorial authorities or scientists, one of the key factors that makes some people good to work with and others challenging to work with is the ability for people, particularly experts. I'm not talking about iwi experts, I'm talking about scientists and those in those territorial authorities, is realizing you don't have to know everything and you don't have to be right. And that vulnerability makes collaboration possible, because we're not asking, you know, regional councils or DOC or whoever it is to be the experts. We're asking for an open mind to come together and find solutions for, you know, a common cause. So that's all I'll reinforce there. And I don't want to take up too much time for the last question.
Right. Tēnā koutou. We have just hit 12, but I did just want to do a very quick, and maybe if you can in 1 or 2 sentences, each of our panelists, where to next? I know for our iwi and hapu groups, the work doesn't stop, even though the project officially may stop, but just wanted to get a sense from you, where to next in terms of your climate adaptation journey, your rangahau journey, your bringing whānau home journey. So we will start with Mahuru, then Janet, then Anne-Marie, then Jude.
This is an ongoing journey, and I know that the mahi that has been done by Anne-Marie and other iwi in Northern Taranaki is massively inspiring other iwi who can see this as a real practical, joyous, uplifting tool to employ in their own rohe, whether it's manu tukutuku or something else more specific to their knowledge, something that's really bringing people together, creating that connection between tangata whenua, between place, between their taonga. You know, there's just huge opportunity when looking at bringing different knowledge systems together, not siloing. So toi Māori, science, everything all has its role. So yeah, I see it, beautiful things coming and lots of manu tukutuku.
Kia ora Mahuru, Janet.
Kia ora. Where to next with rangahau, with the research that we do? My answer to that would be whatever communities want us to do. So that's kind of where my research inspiration always is with the communities who want us to work with them. But just one thing I will say is that looming on the dark horizon to me is the big question of when a community is in the point of wanting to purposefully relocate, whether it's kāinga, whether it's a marae, whatever, if that's their decision that they need to relocate, what is there to support them in making that happen? Because at the moment there's a complete absence of any legislation or any formal support systems that are there to engage with mana whenua on that relocation journey. And I think that's a big unknown and a big research question.
Kia ora, Jenna. Anne-Marie.
I think for us is just carry on, just keep on keeping on, do your best with what you've got, no matter what. Like aha ko te aha, haere tonu, and if we keep like, you know, keep making these spaces available for our whānau, opportunities for them, and if you go through a lull and no one's coming, just kia kaha, haere tonu, because you need to keep these spaces open so that opportunity is there for them to come when they're ready, or you know, if they are able to as well. But we'll keep doing our manu tukutuku. I think but this started in the Taiao space, which is great, and I'll continue to support it. But I think our whānau and whānau engagement have taken it over, and we'll be running rangatahi wānanga in that like regularly. So that'll be really exciting. That's a whole new kettle of fish for me. I'm not real good at engaging our rangatahi, or I'm not a real people person. So it's in a good space over there, and I'll absolutely turn up and support it whenever I can, for sure. But haere tonu, onwards and upwards.
Kia ora, Anne-Marie. Jude.
He tautoko te kōrero or Anne-Marie, just haere tonu, keep going. The little things turn into the big things when we are consistent and regular with wānanga, with hui, with opportunities, with every opportunity to bring our kids home and have our kids in those leading space. But just to quickly answer Tom's question, how do we keep collaborating? Rauru has been a little bit cheeky at the moment, and we're charging out on all the consents and holding that line, so that because we there has to be something we've voiced in there, and actually that stuff takes time, and it takes our Taiao team and our mahi away from what they really need to be getting on with, and at no you know, with no comebacks from any of that space. So we've been a little bit tougher on our councils and charging out the time that we need to have out there so that we can keep collaborating with our whānau. It's not a huge income stream, but it's a little bit, and it also values the mahi that our hapu put into that space to help resource consents go through in a way that we're working together. So, kia ora.
Kia ora. Tēnā koe, Jude. Tēnā koutou. Nei rā te mihi nunu kia koutou katoa. Māhuru, Jenna, Anne-Marie, koutou ko Jude, me o koutou whānau. I really, I know we're 5 minutes over, but I really just wanted to take a minute, I guess, to reflect on what is possible when we create rangahau, when we create climate adaptation strategies, when we create space for whānau out of a context of joy and out of a context of life and aroha, rather than out of a context of deficit or comparison or struggle. That's not to deny that there are struggles in our context, but actually the innovation, the connectedness, the intergenerational nature of what you have all shared has been created out of a context of what we've seen as joy, as recognition of mana whenua, as upholding the important expressions of kaitiakitanga of your ancestors, of our ancestors, for our mokopuna. And so I think out of that context, I just want to mihi to you all. I think these are really important spaces that should be supported. They should be resourced. They should be resourced like we would resource any hydrological or geological report or earth modelling system. And they should be grown because as we've seen for our whānau through Anne-Marie and Jude, for te tai hauauru, and many other of us, that our whenua, our waters, our skies, they call us home. They call us to action, they call us to innovate, and they call us to create and adapt. So I just want to end on that by saying thank you very much to our panelists for your time, for your energy, and for your ongoing commitment to your whenua and your people. And Janet and Mahuru, I think, incredible examples of researchers that, you know, your response, Janet, will do whatever the communities want, to me, is what all of our kairangahau across the motu should be saying as well. So thank you very much, everyone. Thanks for those of you who are watching. We do have one more webinar in the series, which I forgot to find the slide and put up, but we will put the registration in. Max, he's already ahead of me, in the link. Please do join us on the 18th of June for that conversation. I will close us with karakia. Te whakaitanga e, te whakaitanga e. Tēnei te wānanga ka ea, tēnei te mauri o te wānanga ka whakamoia. Koa ki runga, koa ki raro, haumi e, hui e, tai ki e. Tēnā koutou.